Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for our very first webinar, Reusable Packaging for Holiday Shipping. My name is Christina, LimeLoop's Content Marketing Coordinator and your moderator for today. We are so excited to have you all here and to lead this discussion on how you can utilize reusable packaging to better navigate this holiday season, as well as the next one, which, as I'm sure you're all aware, approaches faster and faster each year. Our presenters today, co-founders CEO Ashley Etling and CTO Chantal Emmanuel, founded LimeLoop on the belief that sustainably minded companies thrive. And so they partnered to create a lasting solution to shipping's logistical and environmental problems by way of reusable packaging and IoT. Rooted in continued curiosity for design thinking, business, and technology, Ashley began her sustainable journey with her first business, Red Clay. Seeking a solution to improve its supply chain, in particular its shipping, Ashley troubleshooted reusable packaging as a way to create impact by building a sustainable supply chain from product to door. Today, Ashley continues to utilize her background in supply chains and her innate curiosity to drive LimeLoop and its mission. Chantal's sustainable journey began as a lead software engineer at Red Clay, where she created a community and project management platform that engaged industrial designers and brands to develop ready-for-manufacturer designs. More recently, she worked for one of the leading consulting firms, SY Partners, where she partnered with clients at Fortune 500 companies, guiding them through their digital strategy. Chantal believes that leveraging the right technology at the right time has the power to solve problems in magical ways. And it is with that belief and her background in software and technology development that she too works to drive LimeLoop's mission and vision. Both Ashley and Chantal affirm that by having sustainability as a key operational feature rather than a nice to have, shipping becomes an opportunity to scale reusable packaging and its technology to not only transform a linear economy into a circular one, or in this case, to survive the holiday season, but to also eliminate single-use packaging for good. Today's presentation will discuss holiday forecasts and opportunities, how reusable packaging works, and implementing reusable packaging. Please feel free to submit any questions to info@thelimeloop.com or ask us on social, links to which will be included in a follow-up email along with a recording of today's presentation. Again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon for LimeLoop's very first webinar, Reusable Packaging for Holiday Shipping. And with that, I will hand it over to Ashley.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's great to be here today and thrilled to share more of our learnings about shipping and what we're seeing in the industry. For some reason or another, we love to talk shipping. So have seen a lot through the journey and a lot which has happened in record-setting online purchases. And so excited to talk more about the 2020 holiday season and what we really saw as we started to see a spike in e-commerce and what those record-setting online purchases really started to show us in going forward. So as I was talking, a lot of those holiday seasons, we started to see this increase in package delivery, delaying product deliveries and increasing costs. We actually, as consumers, probably saw it the most as we started to see toilet paper quickly leave the shelves. But what we're really seeing, of course, as business owners, as we get thicker into what's happening, that it goes way beyond even toilet paper to supply chain strains on both the supply and the demand. And we'll continue to see that as we start getting deeper, I think, not only to e-commerce during what we've been experiencing the last year, but as e-commerce starts to become more of retail in general. With that, not only more packages going in worldwide from e-commerce perspective, but also starting to see an increase in returns. And so both upstream and downstream supply chains are really both being tested with those shifts. And so kind of, what we're seeing with returns is that you think about it, Brooks Brothers was created over 150 years ago. And so we've worked in this more retail infrastructure of supply chain. And really before what we've seen with the pandemic, e-commerce is only 15% of retail. And then we almost doubled that in the last year. We're still starting to see those numbers come to life, but that completely has shown, what's really good about our supply chains today, and then where those weaknesses are, especially as a whole new aspect of reverse logistics starts to come into play, and that how that affects all the stakeholders that work within that system. So think about all the carriers that are involved, the 3PLs, and then just the businesses and the consumers in general as we start to make those shifts. So just looking at 70 billion online returns just in 2020 and how that will affect as we go into this next year. So the 2020 holiday season, and of course, with an increase in returns and also an increase in packaging, we're seeing a tremendous spike in waste. And I think everyone's feeling that, whether they're seeing all those boxes piling at their front door and eventually all those boxes piling at their home, and how that starts to affect just in general. So really, we're starting to see a 25% increase in trash just during the holiday seasons. And that's just, those couple of months. And so I think we all see that as we're driving through our neighborhoods during the holiday season. You can see your neighbor's recycling bin overflowing. I think we all get calls asking if they can use your recycling bin. So in general, I think we're seeing it with our eyes, but we're also seeing it from an infrastructure standpoint with recycling centers in the US not being able to keep up with what's happening with those continuous strains. And, going forward with that also takes resource consumption. 3 billion trees are pulped every year to produce these 241 million tons of, shipping cartons. And so as we start to see that, we'll continue to see the supply and demand increase on the resource side as well. So I think overall, it becomes more and more evident that the recycling infrastructure really needs a redesign. So really starting to think about not only just fixing recycling, but how do we reprioritize reuse, especially as we start to see shifts in policy, like the sword policy that went in place a couple of years ago, where China pretty much said, look, we're not going to take any more waste from the US and upcycle it. And that continued to see that strain on recycling systems and how delicate they were, that a lot of all that started going to the landfill. I think we're starting to just as an economy understand the impact of that and what that starts to do. But I think it also is like a lot of opportunity for us to look at all these other kind of systems that we can put in place, like reuse and reduction as we go forward. And then also, just plastic in general and an overall shift of how we do business. I think, the materials we choose when we talk about plastic and how we implement that into our shipping can have a big outcome. So yes, not only reduction, but also remembering that recycling still plays a huge role in it, and the materials that we can truly put up and actually recycle in that system after they've been reused to their strains still works beautifully together. So while we're seeing a lot of, turbulation within the whole system, we're also seeing a lot of great opportunities. So why you're here today, holiday shipping. And so we really have to look at, well, what does that all mean? What are we going to start to see? And then Chantal will eventually come in and tell us like, okay, great, what do we do with that? And where's all these great opportunities? Because of course, when we see any problem, we start to see incredible entrepreneurs and smart minds come together to share knowledge to really bring us to a point to where we can start to see a shift as we start to go deeper into this e-commerce economy. So let's talk a little bit about, profit, the people, and the planet, and how they'll all start to play this larger part in, these shifts, especially during the holiday season. So I think one thing when we talk about profit and we talk about cost, definitely looking at the carriers, what kind of new surcharges are they putting in place? Like USPS will be putting a surcharge from October 3rd, which is around the corner, all the way to December 26th. And then UPS and FedEx, they've had surcharges all the way through once the pandemic hit, and looking at closely how they're surcharging. And I'd say also, where are their commitments to hitting timelines and deliveries as well, as we start to see see that that will make a big impact. And then also, I think as we look deeper into profit, looking at supplies, really doing your diligence on what's going to be the most cost effective as we start to see continued resource and supply chain depletion and just even the normal packaging supplies that we really use today. I think over the board, we're starting to see just in general an increase, for pulp and paper and that cost. So we'll definitely see that as we look at our current, packaging, how we use that. People, really putting, I think, okay, hopefully everything goes really well and everything, all your packages are on time. But I think, the more we can think through that, how we communicate with our customer, be very upfront and transparent that, order early because we're not, exactly sure with this fragile system when those deliveries will arrive. But of course we can over delight and everything comes early. And then I think plan it, also on the communication side, really talking through, what you're doing as a company to really think about the planet as your customers start to feel really guilty with all these packages piling at their front door. And then what you're doing, going forward and thinking about, how you can really, contribute to a lot of these spikes in waste we're starting to see. So I think from there, I'll let Chantal come in with all the opportunities that we're really seeing with that. Yes, we're seeing some shifts with, our profit and our planet and how we work with our customers, but there's also such incredible opportunities, not only what we're working on with reuse at Lime Loop, but so many other companies and how we can all really work together to start to really be, as a business, really start to shift together to really start to see, shipping really come to life.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ashley. So whether you're shipping for the first time for this holiday season, or you've kind of still have nightmares about holiday seasons of past, we really wanted to take an opportunity to kind of pause, taking into consideration all of the challenges that Ashley mentioned that are on the horizon for this year, but what are some things that we can do today to help to mitigate that? And at the end of the day, really focus on what all of our goals are, which is delighting your customer. So similarly, we look at 3 ways of doing that through profit, people, and planet. So on the profit side, it's really about streamlining your supply chain. On the people side, looking at how do we refocus on the customer, and on the planet, how do we minimize a lot of that waste and that consumption that we see. So before we dive a little bit deeper into each of those, just wanted to kind of level set. I know all of you are here to hear more about how reusable packaging fits into this story as well. So I just wanted to make sure that we were talking about that in the same way. And so whenever we refer to reusable packaging, we're referring to package that's reused by the brands. And so kind of the way that that's structured might be slightly different from brand to brand, but at the end of the day, it's essentially a brand using a package to send out their product in that has the instructions and the ability to be returned back to them and then used over and over again. So diving a little bit deeper into the profit side of things. So optimizing supply chain with the shipping platform. A lot of the challenges that we see with shipping, and that's only more exacerbated by the holiday, is about a lack of visibility at the end of the day. And that visibility is twofold when you're a retailer of physical goods, right? So you have the supply chain that you need to get the product from your manufacturer to you, and then the supply chain to get that from you to your end customer. And so there's a lot of talk around the last mile delivery, but of course that whole structure requires a visibility level that's not there today. And that's actually what caused a lot of those challenges. And so we see one of those opportunities to really set yourself apart this holiday season is by creating that visibility by using online platforms that will allow you to know where your package is and when to expect it. And then of course, within that, there's ways of mitigating those longer expected delays and delivery times by getting us started on that as early as possible. So I think one of the challenges that a lot of people do is they try to put in a system at the same time that they're in kind of that influx of online shopping. And it's really hard to do that. So now's the time to start looking at your different options from the point of monitoring the delivery, everything to printing out your labels and where are those going to come from, whether or not you're going to include return labels from the start or have have customers request that. All of that should live in one platform and make it a streamlined process for you and your employees to make sure that you're ready to deal with the influx of orders that are coming in the next couple of weeks. on the people side of things. So there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of feelings that come out of receiving a package. Our goal as retailers is to make all of those joyful and delightful, but we know that that's unfortunately not the case, especially with the ways that things have been going recently with packaging and with shipping. And so a lot of things that we hear here at LimeLoop are, I keep getting packages where the box is 5 times bigger than the product I need. Like, why do I even need a box for that? So there's a lot of these kind of feelings of, I want to be part of the solution as a consumer, as opposed to feeling like I'm contributing to that waste and that pileup that's happening right now. So how do we look at both reusables in the holiday season when a lot of packages are being sent as an opportunity to kind of create that feeling that as a customer, you don't have to feel guilty, but you're actually part of the solution just by shopping with us. Easier returns. Returns become a really a 4-letter word with retailers, and for good reason. It can often be a costly and complicated process of getting products back to your manufacturers and to your distribution centers. But the thing that we've seen here at LimeLoop over and over again is that sometimes people try to mitigate that by making returns more difficult. But we know that in the long run, that's not really advantageous for customers and for the company. So US Postal Service did a study recently and found that 68% of customers check the return policy before making an order, which means if you don't have an easy and really forward-facing way to send products back, then it's kind of a no-go for a lot of customers. What we're also seeing in terms of behavior, that about 38% of customers over-order with the intent of sending the extra products back. And so if we know that these are the behaviors that customers are going to do, how do we streamline that process in a way that makes it easy for them, but also a process that is financially and fiscally responsible for you to be able to maintain over time? And so we see reusables as a really great option of that, because the packaging and the tools and the shipping materials that you need are already included in that outbound. So customers don't even have to think about it. So the time comes they need to send that item back. And then we see really great ways of engaging customers throughout that post-purchase experience. And so whether it's opting into programs from the very beginning, and that's a really great way to educate customers about expected behaviors, as well as kind of gamifying the experience of shopping with you, right? So what are different point systems that you can have to encourage the behaviors that you want, discounts on your next purchases. It's really great ways of making the process of ordering delightful, not only of receiving the end product. And we see Shopify or leveraging your e-commerce platform as a really great way to do that. And it's already built into your systems oftentimes. And then, of course, the planet. And so when we look at waste, we look at it in 2 main ways, as Ashley mentioned. So there's the resources being used, right? And so whether you're using a cardboard box or a plastic polymailer, raw materials have to go into that construction that then, whether it's being recycled or made virgin again each time, has to be brought back into the system each time a new product is remade. And so when a recent study by Fast and for Good took a look and found that 72% fewer carbon emissions per cycle when compared with 30% recycled content mailers is used when you use a reusable package. And so, as I mentioned, there's 2 ways of looking at waste reduction. There's the raw materials, and then there's the emission side of things, right? So as CO2 is being leveraged, whether you're shipping your packages from the manufacturer to your distribution center, and then from the distribution center to the end consumer. And so in Fast and for Good, taking a look at the comparative of those two, found a 72% savings. And then an 87% reduction in plastic waste when you use reusable. So it's a really great opportunity, especially with everything that we know now about climate change and the waste piling up, and that we can really cause huge reduction in waste and raw materials consumption by using a reusable packaging system. And so how exactly do we go about doing this? Well, of course, we know it's not necessarily one size fits all for brands, but what we found across the board with folks leveraging reusables is that there's 3 key ways that really help to make it a success at scale. And the first is starting small and starting now. And what we mean by that is I think a lot of people want to change overnight and be able to say, like, we are using 100% reusable materials. And we found that is not the best way to set yourself up for success. Instead, we found that there's different ways of looking at how you segment it, but whether it's based on location, a particular set of SKUs, or the size of an order, it's a really great way for you, whether you're doing your own fulfillment or you're leveraging a 3PL, to make the incremental changes to the way that you do things that then allow you to scale that up over time. The second is getting your customers involved. I think as retailers, a lot of us kind of want everything to be perfect before it gets in front of a customer, but you'll find, especially when it comes to implementing something like reusables, that customers want to get involved. They're excited about this. They've been asking and looking for a change. And even if it means that you're testing out on them a little bit, they like to know that they're part of that experience. And so don't be afraid to ask them what they think, to get some feedback, to have them different ways of learning about how they can send that package back faster. Get them involved and get them excited, and you'll learn that it's actually a really great way to set yourself apart and keep customers coming back. And then, of course, scaling over time. And so when we work with customers, we work very closely about seeing what's the right timeline to implement a change, whether it means starting, after the holidays because everything's kind of locked in and set right now, or trying to test out little tests during the holiday season. There's kind of different ways depending on the different brands, and thinking through what works best for you over time. So I know we've given you a lot of information, a lot of food for thought. And I think a lot of the times when you hear stuff around, specifically around this crazy time of holiday seasons, it takes some time to digest that and kind of move forward. So as you're thinking about it, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts or any feedback, we definitely recommend that you reach out to us at info@thelimeloop.com. We've seen shipping from a lot of different types and a lot of different sizes. And so we have a lot of great knowledge that we're happy and willing to share with those folks who are working through these challenges now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley and Chantal. Great information here. And again, I encourage anyone to submit any questions on info@thelimeloop.com. And you can find us on social, which again will be included in the follow-up email. So keep an eye on that. And thank you everyone so much for joining us.